phone's going in, it looks like.
Okay.
Ready?
So let's just kind of start and go down, and I'll just start pointing out stuff in no particular order. So here you can see the trachea, very clear. You can see those tracheal rings, right, that hyaline cartilage. And then as you start to descend down into the mediastinum, you can see it breaking into right and left main. And then here is a really nice job of separation. So here's 1, 2, 3 lobes. So you can see as this main or this primary breaks into the secondary, the lobe, you can see that's this guy right here, and then this breaks into the segmental. So these little offshoots are going to be the segmental. So that's a really nice lung right there. The esophagus, if you're wondering where that is actually this little muscular tube behind the trachea. That's where that is. So that's heading down to the stomach. As we start to continue to go down, let's stick with respiratory. We have our diaphragm right here. So that's that large dome-shaped muscle that separates thoracic from abdominal. And then we have the liver of the cat here. The cat's liver is orientation-wise a little bit different than us. We have kind of right and left, caudate, quadrate. The cats sort of have them all over the place. But you can see, as you start to look and sort of peel this apart, you can see that's the gallbladder right there. Has typically kind of a little bit of a greenish hue to it. And that's probably about the most you can make of that. I mean, you can't really follow the ducting system like the cystic duct and the hepatic duct going to the common bile duct. That's the reason why we have the models, so we can see that a little bit better. As we start to move into the abdominal cavity, we're going to start moving into the digestive system stuff. And so here you can see you've got your stomach. It's got that J-shaped pouch. So up here is going to be that cardiac region. So that's this piece right here. So that's where that lower esophageal sphincter is. It moves into the fundus. There's the cardia. And then this is going to be the body. And then this is the pyloric region here. And then here you can see that little pucker right there is going to be where the pyloric sphincter is. And then this leads into the stomach, the small intestines. So this is going to be the duodenum and then the rest of the small intestines, so jejunum and ileum. So one thing we're not going to necessarily have to figure out is like where does it stop being duodenum and where does the jejunum start, right? Because we don't really know. We have to crack it open and take a look at it. That's the reason why we have the histology, is because histology is actually the best way to see when we're transitioning from one region of the small intestine to the other. And even then, it's like a continuum, right? So it's not like a hard line. Also up in this region, since we're here, you can see there's your pancreas right there. So this is the stomach, the pyloric sphincter, the duodenum, and if you kind of just turn the duodenum over, typically you'll see that nice little fish-like pancreas right there, nestled right next to the duodenum, and so that's basically working with the liver to dump the pancreatic juice into the duodenum to essentially neutralize and start adding digestive enzymes to it. One thing we've kind of been throwing side to side all semester long is this guy right here. This is actually part of the serous liner. This is the greater omentum. It's like a little fatty membranous apron that basically drapes over the small intestines like an apron, kind of holds everything together. So that's part of the lining system associated with the digestive system. In between, which is also part of the lining system, is the mesenteries. That's this kind of webbing in between, also part of that liner, that's designed to sort of keep all the small intestines sort of all kind of battened up and pulled together so they're not just sort of flopping everywhere. As we kind of go through the small intestines, then we're going to start transitioning from the ileum into the large intestines. So here's the ileum right here. This is going to be the ileocecal valve, and this is the cecum, where the large intestines begin. And so here you can kind of see this like a little hook or this little horn on the end of the cecum. That's about where we would have our appendix in our bodies. And so one of the things that we want to maybe try to do, just to sort of show you guys what that ileocecal valve looks like, is kind of open this up if I did it correctly.
It's juicy.
A little bit. So there you can see is the ileocecal valve, that right there.
Okay.
So you go from the ileum into the cecum, and then you start to move through the large intestines. In the cat, it just basically kind of goes straight through. In us, it starts to move from the cecum to the ascending, the transverse, descending, sigmoid, and into the rectum. And then for this right here, the rectum is going to be right down in here in the actual cat itself. So that's the digestive system. For the urinary system, we've already probably located the kidneys, right? We did that pretty early on in the semester. So here's our kidneys here. And the other one is over here. And then associated with these guys, you should see ureters coming off of them, and that's kind of what you can see right there. So there's a ureter, nice little ureter tube going in there. If you kind of chase this guy, he's been kind of severed a little bit. But this will actually connect to the bladder itself. Let's see if the other ureter made it. So here it looks like he did, possibly. Is that it? Bundled up in there. So you can see how it's kind of trapped in behind that blood vessel right there. It goes right up here. There it is right there. Right there on the bottom. This guy right there.
Is the ureter?
That's the ureter. You can see it's going right up to where you'd expect the renal pelvis to be, right here on that medial side of the kidney. You can see it's going right up into that region right there.
Okay.
And you can see that's connecting to the bladder, which is this big pouch right here. Now if you take a look on the opposite side of the bladder, do a little bit of excavation here. Might have to get down in there a little bit. So here you can see, here's the bladder, and then right there is going to be the urethra.
Okay. That tube.
Mm-hmm. And then for this one, since we have a male, you can see here's the testes, and then this guy right here is going to be the spermatic cord. So you can actually see, here's the testis right here. You can see how it's kind of coming to a point here, and then that basically is the spermatic cord. So as it enters the body, where the spermatic cord is going to be a combination of blood vessels, nerves, and the ductus deferens, or the vas deferens. And so once it enters into the body, then what happens is that bundle starts to kind of break apart. So the nerves kind of go one way, the vasculature goes another way, and the vas deferens or the ductus deferens take kind of a hard right and starts to move toward like the seminal vesicle and things like that, so that you can kind of wrap that sperm in the necessary secretions that you need in order to make semen, so that you can actually get modal delivery of the actual sperm itself. So that's a really nice spermatic cord. See what else I can find. I think I covered just about everything that I can see here on this cat. Some of these other cats have obviously similar structures. I think there was one of these cats had actually pretty better actually ureters. You could actually pull up the bladder and you could see the two ureters connected to it. So this is basically the story of what we can see with the cat. This is actually pretty good. And the rest of it, basically, in terms of the anatomy, would be either based on models or a combination of like the sheep kidney or the models we have.
So all the